Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the Harvard Graduate School of Education. My name is Fernando Reimers and I'm a member of the faculty here, and I'm also a faculty affiliated to the Advanced Leadership Initiative, which is an inter-university program that is co-sponsoring tonight's event along with the Askwith Forum. The Advanced Leadership Initiative program is a program that brings to the university individuals who have succeeded in a primary career and who are interested in taking on important, challenging problems in the world and doing something about them. And as part of that program, we organize a series of deep dives where the fellows in this program meet with a variety of entrepreneurs and scholars and so on working on those topics. We are working today and tomorrow on a deep dive on how to close gender inequalities around the world. And so it is fitting that this Askwith Forum is devoted to the very same question. How do we create educational opportunities for women and men and for women so that we close these gaps around the world? What's going to happen tonight is we're going to hear from two speakers. First, from whom I'm going to introduce in just a moment, Sakena Yacoobi, who's a remarkable social entrepreneur who created opportunities to educate girls and women in Afghanistan at a time when that put her own life at risk, when it was really dangerous to do this, because a lot of people did not believe, including those who were in power, that this should be done. And so she exemplifies the power of ordinary people to change the world. And she's going to talk to us about the work that she did then and that she continues to do now. And I hope she will talk about her next venture, which is to create a university for women in Afghanistan. And then we're going to hear from an entrepreneurial leader of a different kind, Irina Bokova, the Director General of UNESCO, who has worked not only to advance education for girls and women and for all children in that organization, but done a lot of work to bring multiple actors, including members of civil society, to advance education for all. So we're going to hear then from her. And then we're going to hear from two colleagues who are going to join us in this conversation here. Professor Rosabeth Kanter, the founding director of the Advanced Leadership Program and a professor at the Harvard Business School, and my colleague, Professor Monica Higgins, who is the co-chair of this deep dive that we have planned on how to close gender inequalities, and who's a member of our faculty here, and prior to that was a member of the faculty at the business school, and whose area of work is how do we scale good solutions to important social and educational problems around the world. So that's the game plan for today. Let me just briefly say a word about each of our speakers. First, Sakena Yacoobi. She's the founder of the Afghan Institute for Learning, as well as the PSY Private Hospital in Herat, the PSY Private High Schools in Kabul and Herat in Afghanistan, and a radio station in Herat, Afghanistan, and soon to be the founder of the first university for women in Afghanistan. The institute that she founded, the Afghan Institute of Learning, is an Afghan women-led NGO that she founded in 1995 to provide teacher education to Afghan women, support education for children, and provide health education to women and children. Under her leadership, AIL, not ALI, has established itself as a groundbreaking visionary organization which works at the grassroots level, empowering women and communities to find ways to bring education and health services to women and children. She recently received the WISE Innovation Award in Kanter for her lifelong commitment and for her innovative approaches to educating women. Irina Bokova, who's our next speaker, is the Director General of UNESCO, and she has been the Director General for 2 terms since 2009. And as Director General, she is actively engaged in international efforts to advance gender equality, quality education for all, and to combat terrorist financing by preventing the illicit traffic of cultural goods. She's a leading champion in the fight against racism and anti-Semitism, and she has spearheaded UNESCO's activities on Holocaust remembrance and awareness. She's a leading advocate for ensuring quality education for all and has championed gender equality, making these her own personal priority for the organization. She's also a leading candidate to be Secretary General of the United Nations. So let me now invite Dr. Yacoobi to join us here at the podium and to share her own observations about what it is that ordinary people can do to advance the cause of girls' education.
In the name of God, the most merciful, the most beneficent, dear ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to be here. Thank you very, very much for inviting me here, especially the Graduate School of Education in Harvard and also the Advanced Leadership Initiative. I really appreciate to be here and thank you for all to coming here. What we are going to talk about today, I really would like to talk a little bit about my work in Afghanistan. I know that all of you are highly educated. Some of you are students, some of you are professors, some of you are researchers, but every one of you are very well educated in area of education. But the things that I'm going to today talk to you about it may be very basic for you. But for my country and for my people, it is the first step. And that first step must be taken, otherwise we will not get anywhere. And I'm going to share with you what we have done and how we have provided education for our women, for our girls, and for our children. First, I just want to tell you a little bit story about myself. I born in Afghanistan. I graduated from high school. I was in the city of Herat. My father was a visionary person. My father believed education is very, very important. At the time that I was growing up, and before I was born, he decided that no matter what, if his children are a boy or a girl, they will go to school. And also I would like to share with you that my father was not educated. So you can imagine, in such a long time, a man in Afghanistan has a vision for education. That is something that we all must think about it when today we talk about the men of Afghanistan and the situation in Afghanistan. But my father, when I was a little girl, he held my hand and he took me to the mosque. I was 4 years old, I remember. And when we went to the mosque, while we were walking together, and I said, where we are going? He said, we are going to learn. That is the word he was using. We are going to learn. So we went to the mosque, and I remember he told the mullah, he said, whatever you know, you have to teach her. And that was the way he talked to that mullah. And since then, he was very supportive of me. He encouraged me, and I finished high school. I wanted to be a doctor. And you know, at the time in Afghanistan, there wasn't a dormitory in Afghanistan, and I could not go to Kabul. My father said, you wait, and then I will take you to Kabul to go to university. I was accepted in engineering school and also medical school. But things happened, things changed, and my father sent me to America. To make a long story short, I came to America, and I was going to university. So what happened to my life? What happened to my family life? Afghanistan was invaded by Russia. My family became a refugee in Iran, and I became a refugee in the United States. So when we talk about the refugee, I know what they are going through, because I was a refugee myself. But one thing I want to share with you, Afghanistan that I was living, Afghanistan that I remember, it was a beautiful Afghanistan. We were self-sufficient. We didn't have beggar in the street. We were free. We could go from house to houses. We could, at night, walk to other people's houses. We could go to a school. I went to a school. There was a university. So that Afghanistan that I remember is no longer exist. And the people that I know, they were very proud people. Self-sufficient, yes, we were poor, but we were self-sufficient. We were very proud people. But what happened? When in the United States, I just wanted to really go back to Afghanistan. My heart was in Afghanistan. I love my country, and I really wanted to go back. I had a good life here. I became a professor. I was teaching science major, but I felt this is not my place. I need to go back to Afghanistan, and I need to educate my people. So at the time, Russia invaded Afghanistan, 7.5 million refugees were in Pakistan. So I decided I'm going to go back to the refugee camp. And let me tell you, when I went to that camp, I saw the things that I never, ever could imagine I see. Women, children, they were desperate. They were very submissive. They could not even communicate. They were not proud people that I know. They did not have no resilience. They were really just sitting in a corner doing nothing. There were a lot of widows, a lot of children sitting in the camp and doing nothing. And you know how I feel. I said, what is wrong? What is wrong with our society? What is wrong with these people? Aren't they all the same as me? Don't they have the same right as every other individual? Isn't human right a right for education? Isn't the human right is a right for every individual? Isn't that education the responsibility every individual? This is something that is really bothering me. And I said, I must change these people. I must do something here. But 7 million people there, 7 million. How you are going to be in one individual and trying to bring a change and transformation? What are you going to do? Especially in a country that people anymore, they don't trust each other. They don't trust nobody. Because what happened to the Afghanistan, Russian invaded Afghanistan, they were saying that Russian came and took our country and we are not going to trust anyone. So they were not trusting anyone. And so what was going to change the life of these people? To my knowledge, education changed my life. Education gave me status. Education really helped me to bring my family to America. Education gave me a recognition. And education, for me, was the key issue to help my people. What kind of education? You all are educated people. Education by rote memorization, by stick, that was the education I went through. That's I didn't want for them. I want education with critical thinking. I wanted to develop a methodology that really teach the students how to think, how to ask questions, and how I'm going to do that. Are these people are really ready to accept me as somebody who come from United States to really teach them how to really read and write and how to think? I have to find a way. And that way was to really build a trust with the community. How I'm going to build a trust with this community? To look into this community and see who is the most trustworthy individual in that community. And you know who was that person? It was a mullah. And you all maybe laugh at me, says, a mullah teaching in a school, how you could do that? How a mullah, with the knowledge that he has, he could teach? But let me tell you, I told him I will train him. And he said, no, I'm not a teacher. But it didn't take one session. Day after day, I went to his compound and his tent and sat and drank tea with him until he accepted my offer to be a teacher. Until he accepted my offer to be a teacher. And you know, once I start training him, in matter of 3 months, I trained 7 people on that compound, his whole entire family. And from one tent sitting as a classroom, start 7 tents inside that compound. And you know, the word spread all around. Everybody was requesting education. Everybody wants to send their children to school. So from one school, from one compound, we went to 27 schools, 15,000 students in 1 year in the refugee camp. And that is something that I am telling you. Thank you. And that was something that it was fantastic. People become alive. People become communicating with each other. But what was the core things that we did? We went after teacher training. We built a teacher training side by side with opening the school. We trained the teacher and then we send them into the school. And the teacher was using the methodology that today in the US you are using. It was a student-centered methodology. It was a participatory methodology. It was a methodology that promoted critical thinking, and that was it. And as a result, the children was learning very fast. While when I was in school, in 4th grade, still you don't know how to read and write. But in this system, in 4 months and a half, everyone know how to read and write. And that was the way we did it. But why is, everybody is asking me, why EIL is so successful? Why you are successful? But you know, my answer is that it's not that I'm successful, it is the people who want from their heart. They are hungry for education. They want to change. They want the transformation. This is one. Second thing is that we took a step, that those steps become like a manual for us. We trust them, they trust us. We choose from the community a teacher that they trusted. We said we do something, we promise, we deliver that things. We didn't do something else. And what the best part of it was that we request community participation. We just didn't hand them this, like this, but we asked community participation. You know, they were refugees, they didn't have that much, but they could have a doorkeeper, they could give their compound to us, and they could do some maintenance, do something with us. Whatever they could, in kind give, we requested and they provided, and that made them to be part of the program. They feel this is their program, not our program. And through that methodology and through that system, we built a school after a school. And this happened at the same time. You know, you will say how those people really allow their children to come to school. And then I want to tell you a story. When I was in Peshawar, Pakistan, one day, I was in my work, and all of a sudden my staff were running to hide. And I asked them, why you are running? They said, the Taliban are on the door. They are coming after us. And everybody was disappeared. And what do you do as a leader? You must take a risk. You must take a risk and be strong and stand up. They told me no. I had a bodyguard. They said, no, you have to get out. I said, no, please, let me go in. And I went and I invited them to come inside. And you know what kind of people they are and what they are doing. And when I invited them, they said, no, they don't want to come. What I'm doing here? They asked me what I'm doing here. I told them, I'm doing nothing. I'm teaching Quran. Don't you want the religion to be known to everyone? And they were like, what? I said, yes, this is a house. We are teaching Quran and we're teaching the meaning of Quran. What are you talking about? And then they said that you are doing something else. I said, yes, health education. Don't you want your wife, your daughter to be healthy? Do they understand about their body, how they get sick, they get cured if they don't have a doctor? And they started speaking Pashto, one to another, and they thought, I don't understand. They said, leave her alone. She is okay. Do you see? That is the way you work. And that's the way we work with those people. And you know, while I was in Pakistan, the news spread all over the place. Inside Afghanistan, people wanted a school. They come, they request a school. And you know at the time, Taliban, how awful they were, still they are, and what they did with the teacher or with the students, they find it out. But what I could do, I should say no. No, I should not say no. I could not say no. I said, yes, we will come in Afghanistan in one condition, that if you cooperate with us, if you protect us, if you give us the teacher from your community, and if you really work with us, that the teacher will be trusted amongst that community. So we negotiate. We had a contract with the family, with the community, and that really helped. So we built a school inside Afghanistan, underground school. Underground school. We provided books, material, supplies, salary. And you know, we had 3,000 students, 80 school during the Taliban. And let me share with you, I made you sad, but let me share with you. Today, those students that they were in the school during the Taliban, they are the ones who are rebuilding Afghanistan right now. They are the ones who are doctor, engineer. They are the ones who are really getting higher education inside Afghanistan. And that's the way we worked. Also, I want to share with you why AIL is doing so many things. You know, education is something that it's really interrelated to many other fields. And if you really want to really accomplish something, which we wanted to do something to really transform our civil society, because everything was destroyed in Afghanistan. Our educated people, they have been killed or they have been running away. So we start from scratch, from zero ground. So if we want to rebuild Afghanistan, what we should do, how we should do it, we have to really work with the community, after community, to really rebuild this community to be empowered. And to build a community to be empowered, we needed to tackle every issue that is related to education. You know, poverty is related to education. Afghanistan is a poor country. If people do not have a skill, if people do not have education, how they are going to be self-sustainable? Health is also another issue. If we are losing mothers from every direction, we're losing children from every direction. We are one of the second highest country in mortality morbidity rate. What we are going to do? So we need health education. We need to really teach these people how to take care of themselves, how to take care of their hygiene, how to take care of their environment. And not only that, how to really take care of children and take them to the clinic, how to deliver in the clinic. They didn't want to deliver in the clinic. We have to have health education, side by side with education, to try to teach them that if they go to the clinic, if they immunize their children will not die. They will not die with the delivery. So what we try to really build again, clinic after clinic, that the participants come, the people come, and they sit and they went through a lesson plan with health education. What kind of lesson plan? According to their level. According to the level of their knowledge. As they increase learning, we increase our curriculum. But first, with basic things, how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your children, how to take care of your environment. And once they learn that, then you know what? They come and they ask for health center, community center. Why? Because when they were coming in the clinic, they were sitting around and chatting and discussing different issues. So they asked for community center, women community center. And sure enough, in a matter of week, like I opened 10 of them. Why? Because I knew that that center is going to be another educational center. Because I knew that once they come, the men also is going to support us. Yes, there is an issue that in Afghanistan, still men are against education. There are some men that are against education. But no, that's not the case. So we opened Women Learning Center. In these Women Learning Center, we had health education, we had income generation, that they learn how to sew. You know, in every family, a woman who comes and sew and earns some money and take it home, the husband is happy because he could not have a job, he doesn't have money, and when the wife work and bring money inside the house, he is happy. That's one thing. So we open income generation. Also, we open a literacy program. So they start reading and writing. And once they start reading and writing, we start giving them a workshop on human rights, women's rights. What kind of workshop in human rights, women's rights? Workshop according to Islam. We must preserve our culture. We must preserve our religion. How we do it? With vision, with understanding. So we start teaching them quotation from Quran that it says a woman's right is everybody's right in Islam and any other religion. Human's right is in Islam. Democracy is Islam. Men and women equal can learn in Islam. You can go and learn as much as you could side by side with your brother or with your husband. And when we show those quotations to the women through the workshop, it was unbelievable. They went from inside our compound, they went home and they discussed with their husband. Many, many men, they changed. Today we have a lot of men who are our activists. They are really publicizing our workshop, our educational system to the public because they are behind us. They are supporting us because they could see that the life of their children changed, the life of their wife changed, the status of their economy is changed. But today we are no longer just going with the literacy program or going with a very simple basic reading and writing. Today we have advanced classes. we teach in computer, we teach English, we teach advanced study, and also what we do, we really encourage people for good citizenship with a democracy. We have workshop on good citizenship. And you know, thousands of men and girls come to our compound. They sit in our auditorium, like today you are sitting. They sit in a group. They just request a space, and we give them a space. In that space, they debate, they discuss, they talk. You know, it's unbelievable. Today, EOL has reached 12.5 million people so far, statistically. And continuously, people are asking for help. And continuously, if we have a funding available, we could have thousands of schools and women learning centers. We have 42 women learning centers. Each women's center run from morning to evening. Each one. And each one has from 600 to 2,500 people in it. And so you could imagine. And every year, we graduate 20,000 students from our program. What kind of graduation? It's not that, say, from first grade to 12th grade. We are graduating people in different level of education. Because somebody comes to just learn how to read and write. Somebody comes to finish 6th grade. Somebody comes to just learn English. Somebody come learn computer. So we have computer lab everywhere. We have an English program in everywhere. We are in 13 provinces of Afghanistan. Let me tell you one thing about the people of Afghanistan. They are really smart. They are intelligent. They are like me and you. There is no difference between those women or any of you. There is no difference between you men or the men of Afghanistan. Yes, we have some problem with some of our men, but all of our men is not like that, barbaric. One of those men, it was my own father at the time that I was growing up, and that should tell you that this is nothing, nonsense for Afghanistan. And today, those men side by side. In my program, right now, my deputy, my coordinator, my manager, they are men. Of course, we have women. We have 80% of our program is all women. But also we have side by side men. Because if we don't really change the mind of the men, how we could be successful with women program? We must look women and men together. We could not separate them. We must train them together, we must provide job together, and we must really have a relationship with both. For example, I want to tell you another story. One time, this is something I shouldn't maybe talk, but I am going to share with you. Yes, it's dangerous, but I'm going to. You know that I was telling you that we do teacher training, a lot of teacher training. So we went village to village, because I really strongly believe that if you have a good teacher, you have a good students, and if you have a good teacher, you keep the students in the classroom. They are not going to run away, because they will be challenging. So one day I was going toward north with my my master teacher trainer, and with 2 bodyguards, we were going toward north in our car. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the road, they blocked my car. There was about 19 young men, dirty young men, that ever you can think of it. And with bear to here, rifle in their shoulder, and the gun in their shoulder, and they stopped the car. And I asked the driver, what's the problem? And he said, I don't know, we have to ask. So my bodyguard stopped and said, what do you want? They called my name. They knew me. They knew who I was. They called my name, and they said, we want her to come down. We want to talk to her. Of course, in the middle, in the car, the master trainer are crying because they have children, young children at home, and they think that this is it. The life is over. Forget it. And I just told them, please, quiet. Let's see what's going on. Let me go. First, they didn't let me go. Finally, I pushed the bodyguard, and I went outside. I really did. I pushed him that side, but I was scared. If you think I was not scared, you are making a big mistake. I was shaking like this. I could not really walk outside the car. I held the side of the car because I was shaking so badly. So I got out of the car, and I went, and I said, what do you want? You know, bluntly, they told me, what do you think we want? I said, I don't know. They said, you go every day, and we saw you. We know which village you go, where are you going, which school you are going, and what you are doing for women. How about us? They told me like that. They really said, how about us? And of course, I'm scared. I said, I don't know what to do with you. What do you want me to do? They said, you know what? They said to me, they told me, since we born, we don't know anything else except this gun and killing. That's all we know. But right now, you are helping the women. What about our future? This was 2002, the first year we went inside Afghanistan, openly. And I just said, well, I don't know. They said, don't be worried, we will be here. We will be on the road again and again and again. You go and decide what you are going to do. So, of course, that was a threat. And I didn't know how to respond anymore. I just told the driver, turn around and we go back to the office. And we had seminar was going there. Well, we went to the office, and that happened, that at that moment, look how things work. A donor called me, and she was asking me about a report. And my sound was completely gone. I could not even talk because I was completely losing my voice. And she asked me, Sakena, what is wrong? And I said, nothing. And she said, I know you. I talked to you many, many times. You could not talk. What is wrong with you? And so finally I told her, well, that's happened today. She said, go and tell them that you will help them. See what they want to do. And that was like £1,000,000 out of my shoulder. I take a deep breath because, I knew that my seminar is going on there and these people are waiting here and I could not do anything with these people. And I could not hide all the time. I have to get outside. So next day we didn't go. 3 days later we went. And we went there and tell you one thing, that these people were not in the same area, further distance. They were standing up there on the road. And so I stopped the car. I said, let's go. We go to that mosque. And you remember that I'm talking about mosque. I went back. I took them to the mosque. I had 4 centers in that area. I didn't take them to the center because I didn't know what they are going to do with the women. There are women on that center. So I was really not sure what's going to happen. I take them with me to the mosque. And when they went to the mosque, I said, okay, in one condition I will help you. If whatever I say, you do it. And that happened. They said, definitely. They said, first thing you go and shave and clean and come back here. And they did that. And you know what? I gave them teacher. And today I am going to tell you, and you will be so happy, they are my guide people now. They teach in a school. They teach computer, they teach English, they graduate from 12th grade. They went 2-3 grades in 1 year. And they are good citizens today. They are good citizens today. And you know that what education does to you. My point is that in Afghanistan, we need to empower women, empower men. We need to provide skill training. Also, one thing that also we find out that how we are going to bring peace in Afghanistan, not by gun, by tank, by war. The only way that solution for Afghanistan or any part of the world is through education. You educate the people, you really solve the problem of ignorance. You solve the problem of poverty. You solve the problem of disease. You solve the problem of infrastructure. You need to educate the civil society that they will be good citizens and they behave good and the whole world be free of them. Because if today those people are knocking our door, tomorrow they will be knocking your door. Never separate yourself. The whole wide world is in trouble today because ignorance people are over there. They are not enemy for Afghanistan alone. They are enemy of the world. That's the way they are. So what we should do, we should really educate the civil society, and also a country that has been into conflict, a country that has been into war. They lost everything. They forgot who they are. They lost their resilience, they lost their persistence, they lost also their culture. They lost their history. And you know how we're doing? Through poetry. Now, you know Maulana Rumi. Most of you know, read it about it. And what we do, through a conference, we have a conference in Afghanistan we have an international conference from every province of Afghanistan and white people, and they read Rumi poetry. Rumi poetry is guide you to be kind, to love each other, to forgive each other, and to not be greedy. And that is working. People are weeping listening to it. And so, inshallah, I really am hopeful that Afghanistan will be Afghanistan, peaceful Afghanistan. Afghanistan will be prosperous, Afghanistan will be peaceful, and Afghanistan, civil society, everybody will be educated. And I hope by that time I don't die. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sakena, for a wonderful testimony of the power of ordinary people to truly improve the world. We're going to hear now from a woman who sits at the helm of an organization that exists because of the vision of another woman, Eleanor Roosevelt, and others with her, who understood that to have peace in the world, we would need to create a world in which every human being would have certain rights guaranteed because they were a human being. And one of those rights was the right of education. The document that contains that is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a document that changed the world for the better, transforming the world from one where most kids could not have the opportunity to set foot in a school to one where most of them do today. And that declaration and that leadership of Eleanor Roosevelt began essentially a global movement to empower all people, women as well as men. The wheels of progress move slowly, but they move. It took 7 decades for a woman to be the Director General of that organization. Please join me in welcoming Irina Bokova.
Thank you very much, Professor Reimers, dear Fernando, Professor Kanter, Professor Higgins, dear Sakena. As you can imagine, I'm very moved by your speech, and I think it's a moment of just maybe be quiet for a while and think about what you have done and about the power of education, about the power of women, women's education also. And please accept my very deep admiration. We were with you just 2 weeks ago, I think, 3 weeks ago. We were together in Washington for an important meeting of the US-Afghan Women's Council and the presentation by another wonderful lady, Mrs. Laura Bush, who is co-chairing the US-Afghan Women's Council and who is UNESCO Special Envoy for Literacy, with all her dedication to literacy and women's empowerment. As Professor Reimers just said, I'm very happy, very honored, and I would say very humble to speak up after you, because you are the one who make who change lives on a daily basis of thousands of women, and please accept once again my very deep admiration. I think what you said expresses the power of education, and also an education that goes beyond nowadays, I believe, simply knowing to write and read. You did mention about education that is transforming lives, that is bringing income to the people, that education that makes people healthier, families, that decreases child mortality. And I would say that nowadays we at UNESCO, when we were working with our partners and the United Nations system, international community globally, to bring education on the forefront of the international political agenda with the Sustainable Development Goals and, as we call it, Agenda 2030 now. We have gathered evidence, we have made a huge advocacy in order to show that without education, there cannot be sustainable development. Because we know that nowadays education is probably the most cross-cutting objective of the Agenda 2030. And when we speak about education and of gender equality, of women's empowerment, goals number 4 and 5, I think these are the two goals that really have to take the central stage of all the efforts of sustainable development. Now, we know that since the year 2000, with the Millennium Development Goals, when UNESCO launched Education for All movement, we say movement because it was indeed a global movement for education, we have made big strides. We know that if at the beginning of the year 2000 there were more than 110 million children out of school, now they decreased by half. It doesn't mean that we are happy that 58 million children are out of school, but we see a big drive and a tendency there. And there is a lot of unfinished business that we have to take on board when we speak about Agenda 2030. Out of these 58 million children, 32 are girls. And only 60% of countries have achieved gender parity in primary education. Almost the same number is on the secondary education. 32, a bit more, million girls are out of school, secondary education. We know that girls drop more than boys in between primary and secondary education. We know that only 38% of the countries globally have achieved gender parity in secondary education. We also know an alarming tendency that if the pace of development, if the pace of the way we change and we enroll kids in schools, a poor girl in a rural area in sub-Saharan Africa will enroll in school only in the year 2086. 2086, ladies and gentlemen, is 70 years. And of course, that is not acceptable. It is not moral. It is not ethical. And I would say that it is a threat to development everywhere in the world. In this globalized world, I think if we see such a situation in a country, be it in Africa, be it in the Middle East, in Asia, I think it's a threat to everybody. And what Sakena just mentioned, I think education for girls and for women in many parts of the world is becoming a security imperative. So education nowadays is part of the security agenda, of the peace agenda in many parts of the world. This is how we at UNESCO see development. But when we speak about education, and I think this is very important, and where else than in this graduate school of education here at Harvard to say it, it is not just any education, it is quality education. UNESCO publishes every year global monitoring reports on education. Every year we put a specific focus. We have a couple of years ago concentrated on girls' education, then on technical vocational training, then on primary education, on the impact of education on development. And one of our reports, it was 3 years ago, showed that because of poor quality education in the world, there are 250 million young people, the majority of them, once again, women, girls, young women, who have passed through some form of primary education 3 or 4 years, who are functionally illiterate. They do not know how to write and read because of the poor quality of education. And that is why when we were working for the formulation of the goal number 4, sustainable development, goal number 4, we put, of course, the access, the inclusiveness of education, but we put also the quality of education as one of the important targets that we have to put in front of the international community and governments. And then, of course, when we speak about quality education, what kind of quality education in the globalized world? Well, we have so many challenges. We have the challenges of climate change, the challenges of loss of biodiversity, of protecting the environment. And UNESCO has been leading the United Nations Decade of Education for Sustainable Development. We have to talk about education for sustainable development. With all the threats nowadays in the world, unfortunately, rising intolerance, the need to live together, of cultural literacy, of understanding each other, we have to teach young people human rights, human dignity. We have to teach them tolerance, how to live together. And I think with the rising threat, or I would say challenge, of movements of refugees, and I'm not speaking only about refugees in Europe or in the Middle East. We know that there are millions of refugees in many other parts in the world, in Africa, in Asia. We need to teach these young people human dignity, human rights, understanding about the others. And something that I shared today with some of the faculty staff here, I think this is very important. We have to bring them back values. We have to bring back humanities, history, knowledge about societal, about civic commitment, civic engagement. This is what we call education for global citizenship. It's, I would say, as every new concept, it was a bit difficult to promote it, because at the beginning, when we started talking about the need in a globalized world to talk about education for global citizenship, there were people who were asking us, but citizenship is about passports, it's about, it's a prerogative of governments, of homeland security and stuff like this. And we said, no, 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 we're talking really about some value system that we want to instill in young people. And this was accepted. It was accepted also thanks to the academia. I would like to thank also Professor Reimers and many of your colleagues here and in other institutions, academic institutions, universities, because we launched a global debate, a thinking about the future of education, about education in the 21st century, and this concept that we called education for global citizenship. And in all this, ladies and gentlemen, in order to wrap up a little bit what I wanted to share with you, I think women's education, women's empowerment through education, not just education. I think it's very important to speak about, of course, girls' education, women's education, but I think we have to speak about empowerment through education. I think Professor Kanter should agree with me on this. It is very important, because we know there are educated women, but they are not empowered. And this is where we have to make a difference and put together goals number 4 and number 5. But in many of the instances, we really have to look at what empowers women, what are those conditions that will bring back a girl to school, or that will prevent her from dropping out. Because we know that every single day more in school, for a girl, transitioning from primary to secondary education, reduces child marriages, reduces early pregnancies, reduces violence even, and creates a very different environment in the community, in a society, in a family. And this is where we believe that neglected, a very much neglected area of girls' education is the adolescent girls' education. And we need to focus more on this. We need to bring together the health sector. It is a very fragile period in a girl's life, to bring the health sector, the educators, the community leaders, and all those who could support the girl to stay in school, to make this transition from primary to lower secondary, to continue in school. And sometimes I think that if we have to kind of give an image of this beautiful sustainable development agenda, Agenda 2030, where we have everything, a huge aspiration, a dream for the international community, for the world, to have peace, good governance, and sustainable development. I think the image should be of a maybe 10, 12 years old girl who is going to school, who is continuing. She goes to a safe school. She's supported by her family, by her father in many of these cases. And she continues with, I would say, the support of the community and of society. And I think this is a wonderful image for all of us that we really need to work for. So once again, thank you for this opportunity to share with you some of our ideas, some of our aspirations. We are very proud that UNESCO for 70 years already, because we celebrated last November the 70th anniversary of this organization, which I believe is the most humanistic organization among the United Nations system. And I think we have done justice to the world by promoting education, and in this particular case, girls' education. So thank you once again.
thank you for these wonderful remarks. I'd like to invite my colleagues, Monica Higgins and Rosabeth Kanter, to react a little bit to what we've heard and then maybe begin a dialogue with you.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Saeed, and thank you, Ms. Bokova. I had the great privilege of being on the stage when the U.S. Secretary of State addressed UNESCO for the first time in many years, and it was very inspiring because it was about your empowerment agenda, empowerment of women. This was so inspiring to hear about what you've done, and not as an ordinary individual, Fernando, I said as an extraordinary individual. And I keep wondering why we can't have not only more social entrepreneurs, that's very important, but have more governments who recognize the importance of these investments and have the international community support it. We do know that the data are out there that countries that invest in education for women are more prosperous countries. It's hard to know what the correlation is, what the causality, it's a correlation, it's not necessarily causality, but in fact, all those benefits of education that you began to talk about, health, peace, citizenship, ability to work are all very important. So I'm pausing, as you said we should pause and think about this, about how important the agenda is, but it's not an agenda for just one gender. It's an agenda that changes families and households. One of the things that U.S. Secretary of State had been championing seemed very simple for the developing world, for rural areas, but turned out to be very profound. It was clean cook stoves, that so many lives are lost, women's lives are lost because of cooking on open fires. And it's not only the lives lost, it turns out that that's more lives lost than to the infectious diseases. But it's also that nobody can do anything else if they don't have modern facilities. It means that the children in the family and the mother in the family are spending their time gathering wood and preparing meals. There's no time for anything else. So I want to see this issue of education and getting kids into school connected to the other structural issues of communities that will help create livelihoods, free up time, because education is seen in some countries as a luxury, particularly in rural areas. And so I want to know how you think about overcoming that barrier in some families where they want the children to stop school, including the boys, because they need the hands on the farm. They need the agricultural labor. And there are countries in Latin America where the education minister had said in recent years, well, we don't need better education because our children don't go to school after the age of 11 because they're working with the family on the farm. And that's boys as well as girls. So my question for both of you, and then of course I defer to my colleague to make comments and ask other questions, is how do we change the view that families have about their children's opportunities while maintaining a livelihood for the family and convincing governments to invest in education, but also to invest in the infrastructure in communities that will make it possible to free people for education?
Well, I maybe, or Professor Higgins, if you want to say something, or I could react immediately.
Should, if you want to react,
I just think this is a very important question, but let me say that Agenda 2030 shifted for the first time I would say the commitment of governments from a primary education to having kids in schools for 9
to 10 years. It's a commitment of all governments to ensure primary and secondary education. And it is not imposed on them. They own this agenda. We have to hold them accountable. Whether we do that, we may help them. In some cases, it's by incentives. In rural areas, there is a lot of need for incentives to continue so that kids continue in schools. In other areas, it's about giving them more skills, some technical skills to make them more useful to their communities, to their society. So I think there are different techniques, but the most important is that for the first time, governments committed to primary and secondary education. It was not an easy, I would say, agenda to be adopted, but it was important that this is already part of a compact, because Agenda 2030 is a part of a global compact that governments already adopted. So they have this responsibility, and we have to hold them responsible. Civil society has to hold them responsible. Everybody has to reach out to them, and they say, you have this obligation to do. There were governments who did not want, who said, we cannot ensure this. We cannot ensure that all kids continue with the secondary education because it requires investment and this and that, or because for the same reasons. We don't want because they do not need to go to school. But this was the most important. And the second is that for the first time also, we obliged and governments committed to have at least between 4 and 6% of their national budgets for education. For some countries it's insufficient because they have small, I would say, budgets. Some countries allocate 20 to 30% of their budget for education, and still this is not sufficient without an international aid. But I would say that we're speaking a lot about Africa, about the least developed countries. Let us not forget that some of the middle-income countries have the biggest inequalities and a huge percentage of kids that are not going to school, and disparities also in this area. And these are countries that can afford to make a much more elaborate policy in terms of education. So I think there is a framework to work. I don't say it's easy, I don't say that it's done, but there is a different shift in mentality in order to solve some of these issues.
Sakena?
I really would like to say a few things about this issue. First of all, when I was in Pakistan, everybody was saying that the primary education is enough for the refugee. We are not going to go after the secondary. And I was the only one that constantly, meeting after meeting, going and emphasizing that secondary education is important. We have to have primary, secondary education. So, but right now in Afghanistan, I am talking from my own country. I really wish that our government allocated some percentage of the finance to education, much more than what they did. I think that we, as she said, right now in every nation, they're supposed to send their children from primary to secondary. But one thing that there are some governments that still, they are holding back with the budget. They are not giving enough money to education. Every other department get their funding, but not the Department of Education. So I hope, and I am wishing that some government really wake up to realize that education is the key issue to solving all other problems in the country. So they should allocate more money to education. And you said something that how the village, they want their children to stay in, in their home because they stop them from going to school. But I think, again, there is an innovation way to really, the government can provide some kind of service for those families that they can send their children to school. First of all, they should have in every village a school. There are villages that they don't have a school. Still, there are many, many villages that the children could not go to school because the school is far distance away. So security-wise, they could not send their children to school. Also, financially, as you said, they have to work with the family because they should support the family, and they could not go to school. So if there are some incentive from the government to those families that it can really give to the family that the children can go to school, that will be, or have some skill training in the school that while they are learning, which EOL is going to do that, inshallah. We want to train the children in school while they are learning. They also earn some income. For example, we have an orphanage. We have 400 children in orphanage. When we took over that orphanage, the children did not know anything. They didn't know how to read and write, and they didn't know behavior. They were grabbing things, stealing things. So we brought them there. But what we did, we put them in the classroom. We gave them a teacher, but at the same time, we give them a school. We give them missionary. We give them farming. We give them a teacher to really work with them. And now those children are also earning some money for themselves, but they are orphans. They are earning money for themselves. But if the village, we can do the same thing, it will really help. But children must go in all ages. They must go to school because that's very, very important. And we have to help the government responsible to really help in that issue. Because without government, also as a civil society, as a non-profit organization, one organization or 10 organization, or UN by itself, we could not do. The government of that country is responsible for that.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
So inspiring. So, just listening to both of you, I so appreciate you both being here. Maybe just a couple of comments and then a question I think that might be applicable to both of you. So, Sakena, your story is so inspiring, and I think I heard somebody whisper behind me, that's leadership. And we think about, training leaders who are going to make a difference in the world through education here. And I was just thinking about how much courage, truly, that's that's clearly within you, and somehow you were able to, infect others, if you will, to kind of bring about such tremendous change in such a short period of time, and really thought about it as kind of entrepreneurial leadership, if I could use that term. I know I have some students in the room here who might know that I teach about entrepreneurship, but you are an entrepreneurial leader, and no denying it. And we can all learn so much from thinking about not just who you are and the values that you hold, but also the methods that you use and how you talked about engaging with the community and finding other people to carry on your work and looking for trust and not just yourself kind of being the only kind of person, but really looking for people within, helping people help themselves. It's very inspiring, and kind of thinking about the leadership skills that you have. And Director General Bokova, I loved how you weaved in education as being critical to sustainable development. And this kind of, seeing education and for women, but also for men, as being critical, but also building in the other side, which is not just empowerment, and you talked about that, but also accountability. And that's a really tricky balance, to empower people, right, but at the same time to hold them accountable. And to be able to achieve that and to create policies and partnerships where people can execute on that theory of change, really, about that kind of, really precious balance is impressive to me, and was wonderful to hear about your work. So here's my question for both of you. Fernando, introduced me as somebody who's looking at how do we scale for social impact? How do we take programs, initiatives, organizations, policies that we believe are effective and help them scale or have greater impact so that they can have greater social impact? And one of the things that you both talked about was quality. And you talked about quality at the same time that clearly you have this sense of urgency, right? So Director General Bokova, you talked about the urgency, not wanting to wait till 2086. And clearly the urgency is palpable, Sakena, and the amazing speed with which you moved in that first year in educating so many students. So how do you think about that sense of urgency, scaling, the urgency to scale, while maintaining quality in your work? I think we could learn a lot from hearing your perspective on thinking about quality, keeping quality at the core of all that you do, quality education.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to all of you understand that one thing that has kept me grounded on the ground strongly. And I shouldn't be modest. I am a strong woman, and I cannot stand that. I could not understand no answer. Is my belief in my religion. I am a Muslim, I'm a strong Muslim, and I believe in my religion, and I believe that all my work is grounded to my religion. This is first thing. Second thing, I really believe that when you listen to the people, really listen to them, as a leader, as a director, or whoever you are thinking, if you listen to them and request their listen to them what they are requesting and implement what they want. For example, when I go to a village, before they ask me a women's center or ask me a school, they ask me a clinic. So what I do, first I build a clinic for them instead of building a school. I know my intention is to build a school, but I really listen to them, and they all want me to have a clinic. So I built a clinic. But also, when I built the clinic, I don't tell them that I will have all the doctor, all the nurses, all the medicine, everything they want is going to be there. The beginning, face to face, I tell them, that much I can provide for you. Mm-hmm. And that much I will provide for them right there on the spot. So they trust me, they know that what I said, I deliver. It's not that I promise and I go mañana, 2 years, 3 years from now, I will come and bring them something. No, not that one with AIL. That's one issue. Second issue, if you are really working with the people, you live with the people, like the people, you are a role model for them. They follow you. You said about entrepreneur, and leadership. Yes, I am a social entrepreneur. I have 3-4 awards on entrepreneur because I am entrepreneur. I take risk, and I feel that this is right now we have a need in Afghanistan to rebuild our country and empower our people, men and women, children, everybody. So we teach leadership in the classroom. Everyone can be a leader. It's not only leadership to you be a president of this company or president of that company. Every single person is a leader. And we try to emphasize that. And we, as a woman, as a mother, they are a leader, who they are organized their family. So we discuss this in the community, and everybody is really after doing something for themselves, not to hand out. And that is one concept that I am really against it, and that made AIL successful. We really ask people to participate with us. And when they participate, they appreciate. Also quality. Every people, doesn't make difference. Where are you coming from? People are intelligence. We should give them credit, and we should appreciate them. When we provide them quality, they understand the difference between quality and not quality. And when they see quality, sure enough, there is 15 other schools who give $50 a month. They give them uniform, they give this and that, but they are all pouring, coming here and sitting on the floor and studying here. And that's the difference. So,
Great, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Both of you have highlighted that education and empowerment are not necessarily the same thing. Education can be empowering, but it can also be disempowering. And the difference is all about who is that teacher, who is that person who is engaging in the conversations. So we're talking about 60 million people around the world, about 60 million teachers, most of them women, who are the linchpin of whether education is going to be empowering. And I have the sense that most education reforms around the world are actually not supporting them to be that kind of empowering agency. On the contrary, they are disempowering them, introducing external demands, providing very limited opportunities for them to develop the complex understandings of what does it mean to empower a person. What is it that international development organizations or large NGOs could do to actually build teaching into a 21st century profession that empowers the practitioners of that profession so they can empower their students?
I believe it's a very important question because it's so much linked to the quality of education, so much linked also to the inclusiveness and at the end of the day to the success of what we want to achieve. On one side, I think in many cases the role of a teacher, the status of a teacher has been degrading in many societies. I think we have to bring back the teacher the respect for the teacher, the importance of a teacher. Of course, we know that there are many new technologies nowadays in the world, and we advocate open educational resources. Access to information is there, and every single boy or girl since very early age, in many instances, can get access to education. But we speak about learning, we speak about guidance, we speak about values, and this is where the teacher, I think, comes. It is important. We are working with the Skills and Education Forum, where we were together recently. We have supported a private foundation that we work with to give a prize for teachers. We think working for teachers is with their quality, the qualifications of their training is very important. And this is what UNESCO, with the International Teacher Task Force that we established at our headquarters, we want to promote in many educational systems. And here also I think partnerships are very important. I think Professor Kanter mentioned the first ever visit of the Secretary of State of the United States in 2011, where we jointly launched the very important partnership for girls and women's education. And then we developed that with many of the private partners for teacher training. We work with Procter & Gamble, we work with Packard Foundation, we work with James Foundation also. We work with Intel. We created a joint platform for teacher training. I think this is something very, very important. I believe that nobody can substitute a good teacher. We all remember from our early years in schooling how a teacher has transformed our lives, how he or she have guided us in order to embark on a profession or an exploration on certain values. And we have to bring back this human, I would say, link that exists between a teacher and a student in a class has to be brought back. I do not underestimate new technologies. On the contrary, new technologies are there also to help train teachers. But we have to bring back the role of the teacher. We work very well with the Education International, the biggest association in the world of teachers, where we jointly work in order to promote the teacher, the respect of a teacher in any society. So I think it's critical.
I really agree with her, and definitely I think that we have to invest in training teacher. Really, we must have teacher train going into the classroom. If the teacher don't have a training, they should not go in the classroom. And second things, I really believe that we should promote the teacher's work, because the teacher in many countries, they don't get a good salary, especially in my country. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 months, they don't get their salary because they don't have the money for them. So how could that teacher can go in the classroom and freely teach, and with all her thought and mind and body stand up in the class and teach for the students, because she or he is worried about how he or she is going to put the bread on the table for these 2 months and 3 months that she didn't have a salary. So I think that is very important. Also, I think that a teacher should have some kind of promotion that bring competition between the teacher, that whoever is a good teacher, they should have some kind of a promotion, and that it's bring a competition between the teacher, and then the best teacher will perform the best, and that is also is going to be a way to really help. And I really believe that. And again, I go back to the government. The government has to really help the teacher association. The teacher must make a teacher association. For my country, we don't have a teacher association. So it's important to have a teacher association, that they come and they sit together and they have meeting together and they gain knowledge from each other, and they support each other, and the government should support them. As one NGO or as a UN, we could not do that. And also depend on the community. Make sure that the community really behind that teacher, support that teacher, that then the trust is going on and the children will learn better, and make safe environment for the teacher. That a teacher who was walking to the school and he or she will be kidnapped or be killed or thrown acid on his face, she is not going to be a good teacher, and the teacher will really need to be in the classroom, run away from the country, will not stay there. So we need to really make a safe environment for the teacher also that will be able to teach.
We're
So-
going to continue.
May I make
course.
one more comment? Thank you. So thank you for that and for the discussion of teachers. Thinking about the general empowerment issue and whether girls stay in school. So the conditions are different around the world because in the US, we actually have a boy problem because boys don't stay in school. Girls do stay in school and tend to get more education. That doesn't mean they hold all the leadership positions in society, but they do get more education. But in those countries where they don't, then the reasons girls may not be in school are things that can be addressed by the kinds of partnerships you talked about.
Right.
And I think that's very important to think about. Many of these partnerships we would not see in a refugee camp, but maybe we will. The business partnerships you talked about, there are things that companies can do within their own areas of competence and expertise that can help girls stay in school. So, or help with issues like teenage pregnancy. So, I'm thinking back to some of the people we mutually know. In Brazil, rates of teenage pregnancy were reduced dramatically by an information and communications campaign that was largely donated by a private company and made a big difference. It influenced behavior. In West Africa, Procter & Gamble has done some things that I think are stunning because one of the reasons adolescent girls don't stay in school, and it's not something we talk about often, especially when being taped, but they often don't stay in school because of the physiological changes they're going through, because they have their menstrual period. And a company that has a product, Procter & Gamble has a product that will help a girl stay in school because she doesn't have to go change all the time, feel embarrassed, feel ashamed of her body, and coupled that with a marketing campaign about the importance of school and staying in school.
This is our project at Procter
I
&
know,
Gamble,
I
and
know.
always.
I know.
It's a fantastic
Laurent,
project.
Yes, Laurent
Fantastic.
Philippe, it's a fantastic project. And if we think, I mean, the advanced leaders sitting here aren't necessarily, although some may want to join you immediately in refugee camps and in Afghanistan, but many are connected to multinational companies or to other kinds of capacities. And if we think about what will keep girls in school, also boys in school, that's another different set of issues because adolescents, primary grades are one thing, there are more similarities. Adolescents, huge differences in physiology. And by college, we have another set of issues which I think have been addressed at this conference. But I think these partnerships that you have fostered have enormous potential for reaching every country and making a big difference.
Wonderful. We're going to continue momentarily. At this moment, I would like for us to thank Madame Bokova. She does need to catch an airplane and has to leave right now, but thank you very much.
Wonderful to see you all. Come again. I love that event. I'll be in Paris at the end of June.
Please. Okay, please. I'm so sorry. I meet you in. I will meet.
Thank you very much. We'll see.
I'm going to Kabul. We will be together there.
Yes,
Wonderful to see you. Thank you so much. Safe travels and good luck.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, let's continue the conversation.
May I make one other comment? Because as thinking about Afghanistan and these other issues that affect schooling, so some activist friends of mine who live in Western Europe, in Paris, have been working with women in Afghanistan, and it turns out that high on the agenda, when they actually listened to the community, were things like garbage collection.
Yes.
Can you comment?
Yes, please. Garbage collection is one issue right now. We are also working with our students to try to really go around. It's a project for them to they go and really teach the people how to not throw away the garbage and collect the garbage. And one other issue is in Afghanistan also is a big problem that some of the schools don't have the restroom. So, and the girls where they go. And so that is a big other issue that you said how private sector can help. They can build some bathroom for their schools so that the girls can go to the bathroom, and it's really hard for them to, use the service. There is no service for them, yes.
Maybe we should open it up to questions and comments from you. We have microphones on both sides of the aisle. I would ask you to come up to the mic and then ask the question. I think it'd be easier, we're video casting these, so it'd be a lot easier if you could speak on the mic. Maybe we're going to begin on this side. Patricia.
Thank you so much.
Why don't you tell us who you are?
My name is Patricia Araújo Henderson. I'm originally from Brazil and Uruguay, and it's just very grateful to be here with you in this conversation today. My question regards to what we've been talking about and adolescent girls and the difficulty that they have and some of it was mentioned, but what I've studied and what I've seen, the widespread is more difficult in the rural areas and the access. Do you have any examples, Sakena, of things that you've seen or have been done either in refugee camps or in Afghanistan, like more remote areas, of successful stories that you could share with us in girls remaining in school and finishing their lives in schools, not leaving because, not dropping out because of, puberty hitting and other factors that involve that, menstruation being one of them?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I can share with you a story of a little girl who is 12 years old. She is a little girl. She was married to a man 40 years old, and she was a housewife. She was in the house of that man with him, and as a wife working in the house. And so we had in that area a center. So some of our master trainer, they find out about this, so they talked to her aunt. They said, if it's possible, she can come. She said, I could not have the courage to talk to her husband because she is not allowed to come. So they said, we will go to her husband. So some of my master trainer, they went to the husband and they said, and they talked, and they said, please send her to school. She can learn something. Even if she learns, she can be a better mother. They said that she can be a better mother. Right now, she is a child. She doesn't know how to take care of her child when she has a child. So the man was listening, and he said, well, I sent her in one condition. And that condition was a very interesting condition that if you come and make my house a center, to bring a center to my house. And we said, fine. We hired 2-3 teachers. We make his house to a compound that we could have a center. And it was in his house. So he had 3 other wives, and this was the 4th wife. So we find out later. And we went there, and we started having program there, and she was coming to class, and she learned. And do you know that after 4 years, she became a very outspoken. She talked in the class. She learned very, very fast. And also, she was pregnant in the first when we get there. And after that baby, she didn't get pregnant. And we tried to, through expecting mother, work with her. So it is wonderful to see her, how happy she is. And now the husband is happy because she is the 4th wife. She is happy. He is happy. So the environment has changed, of course. We could not do anything else, but that is we did. And that is wonderful. This kind of story, many, many stories in the villages that we go work with them. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shazia.
Hi, my name is Shajia. I'm a graduate student in the International Education Policy Program, and I'm originally from Pakistan. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. From the work that I've done and the research that I've done, I have realized that there are 2 key things that are essential to solving, to addressing this issue of education with urgency and at a level of scale. And those 2 have been pointed out in the discussion. One is this question of quality, which is really interesting because from my work on girls' education in Pakistan, I discovered that it's not really an issue of convincing people that girls' education is important. Everyone understands that and they're sold on the idea. It's the problem is that the quality of education is just not good enough. So even if there is that opportunity cost of not being able to work, going to school and not being able to support the family, they just don't think it's worth it because the quality of education is really bad. So I think number one, that's crucial, and I'm glad that was raised. The number 2 thing that I think is essential is having people like you, Sakena, those champions who are going to own this and who are going to do something about it. Because, I think it's very important to have that commitment from ministries, from nations, from the UN, but at the same time, unless there are people in the ground who own the problem and who say, I'm going to make it by business, it's not going to happen. So that brings me to my question, which is, how do we create champions? And if we cannot create them, how do we support champions? And by we, I mean, how does the international community and donor organizations and countries who feel education is on the security agenda, how do they support champions who are serious about addressing education in their own countries?
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you asked this question. First of all, how you can support, I don't call myself champion, but first of all, I think that we are partnered together in this, and we all have to help each other. And I think that in a country like Afghanistan, Afghanistan, people can participate in a program, and when they want to support the program, they should first find out which program is quality program. They evaluate the program before they send their support there, because Afghanistan got a lot of money in Afghanistan, but it was wasted. A lot of money was wasted in Afghanistan. But if anybody wants to help Afghanistan, or somewhere like Afghanistan, they should first evaluate the program and see the quality of the program, and then they send their funding or assistance. This is first. Second thing, champion, I think that, for example, right now we have a leadership class in our high school. In that leadership class, we have students become senator, become president, become a governor, and they are working together in the classroom, and they are leader, and they are practicing, and they are going to offices, and they are seeing offices, how they are working, they are interviewing people. So they are learning a lot of things. So that is also, if you ask everybody, I am sorry to say it, they want to be me. A lot of them, they want to be me. So,
That's good.
The point is that if you have a champion somewhere, and if you really create an environment that the young people be freely talk to them, they listen to that person, they communicate with that. I am very free with young people. I love them, they love me. I am very sort of with them all the time. So they like to be like me. So I think that a lot of people, they will follow as a role model when they see around, So I think that is the issue, because they will learn a skill from each other.
Let me ask Rosabeth and Monica, because leadership education is your life's work, to comment on this question. How do we create champions like Sakena?
Tell her story. And also, I think that was a very good question, and the person who asked it is obviously already a champion. Yes. Convening, talking, speaking, telling the story, showing that it's possible. You create a movement. Get other people to join. If it's quiet and no one knows about it, nothing happens, so you make noise.
Well, it's interesting because I think, clearly you're a champion, and we've been talking about your amazing ability to partner with other folks and to engage the community. So sometimes these challenges seem so daunting if you think it's just me, myself, and I going after them, and I can hear that kind of in your voice a little bit. But the recognition that there are people who feel the same way as you, and maybe they're not exercising their voice right now. But if you start talking about it, you start realizing you're not alone, and you start gaining some of that momentum that Rosabeth was talking about, and you start gaining some of that confidence too. And we've been talking about self-efficacy, some of us today, and the importance of that, and feeling like, and just as you used to convince people that having a school is important, you started with a clinic, we have to do that ourselves in our own careers, as starting with one step and getting some momentum, feeling that confidence, building our own kind of, personal network of support, and I mean instrumental as well as psychosocial support. And that will enable you to take the next step. And then, of course, role models and getting people together and building that momentum and feeling that sense of progress. Everybody needs to feel appreciated, yes, but they need to feel a sense of progress, I think. And I was thinking about the process that you went through, which is very much kind of, you're a risk taker for sure, but you're a calculated risk taker. So you thought about kind of when you were going to go back to those those men and how you were going to go back to them and what conditions, under what conditions you were going to offer them your services. And so similarly, when we think about big risks, rather than seeing it as, too daunting, let's figure out ways of breaking it down and taking a step forward. And we can learn a lot from what you did and who you are, but what you did too.
Thank you so much. My name is Lade Araba. I'm from Nigeria, and I run a foundation that empowers girls and young women in Africa through education, training, and mentoring, but specifically in the science, technology, engineering, and math fields. And my husband's a mid-career in the Kennedy School. There's a lot of parallels with the stories that you experienced and that you shared with us in Afghanistan and even in Pakistan. Last year, we started working in northern Nigeria, which is predominantly Muslim, where you've had insurgency and terrorism, a group called Boko Haram, which tries to prevent education of any sort, but especially for girls and women. And we found ourselves in a very interesting situation where we were trying to identify girls who would benefit from a scholarship so they could further their education and acquire real skills, be employable, become entrepreneurs, and be able to address some of the social issues in their communities. And it was quite difficult to find girls to want to sign up, even though they were capable. So I'll give you an example. During one of our interviews, we identified this girl who was quite brilliant. She did really well in school up until a certain point, and there was a lot of pressure on her to get married and have babies. If you go to high school, the expectation is you're going to get a husband and start a family. And she had a desire to go to school, but she was told, you can go, but only so far. Now, we thought that she could actually become a doctor. And she had talked about the fact that women didn't really have access to healthcare services, and even when they did, because it's a very conservative society, that they felt embarrassed going to the OBGYN because they were all men. And we told her, well, you've identified an issue. You could actually be a leader in trying to overcome this. And she started to cower because we use the word leader. In her community, a girl who tries to stand out, to be outspoken, is actually in real physical danger. And we have another student who's 22, and she managed to get away from an arranged marriage. So the point I'm trying to say is, I'd like to learn from your experiences, especially in northern Nigeria, where, there is a lot of, there's a number of constraints that are religious and cultural, and unfortunately, the men may not be as open as they are in Afghanistan to wanting to empower their daughters and wives and sisters in this manner. So we find ourselves in a very difficult, challenging situation because even when girls are able to access the opportunities that we're trying to create for them, the society sort of stifles them. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on
Sakena,
how
any
we can
advice?
address this.
Thank you. First of all, I think that your society is not different than my society. Yes, we have a lot of positive things, and I'm talking, it's not that we accomplish all the things all inside the country. We have still a long way to go. That is one solution. The other one that I really think that if you want something, you will go after it. I believe in that with all my heart. If that girl wants to really get education, she will get education. But how much she wants it depends on her. That's also one thing that I really try to encourage my staff, my students, everybody to say, you can be anything you want to, if you want to, no matter how much people. In the morning, we get up and go to the program. We don't know if by the night we will be back home or not. That is the risk we take. Really that dangerous. The children are coming to school. They don't know if they will see their parents or not. Sometimes I was in the classroom, try to observe the classes. Some kids just pushing me, what do you want? And I want your phone. Can I call my mommy because I don't know if my mommy is going to be alive? Can you imagine that a child sitting in the classroom and feeling that way? That is the risk. We all taking the risk, but we have to really be serious about what we want to do it. And that's, I think, in Afghanistan, men and women become very strong because they have to say no to those things and stand up for it, not to say behind the wall and say no. And that is happening to Afghanistan. Everybody become very strong and standing up on their word, and they are really fighting it by just being there. That's,
Zura.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm a doctoral student here at the Graduate School of Education, and I'm also studying Afghanistan and community-based schools in Afghanistan, so it's a pleasure to hear your story, Dr. Yacoobi. As you mentioned, the international community is heavily invested and involved in education in Afghanistan, so my question is, what are the biggest misconceptions that the international community has about Afghanistan, and how does it affect educational progress?
Thank you for this question. And if it was right now, she was sitting beside me, I might be not answering you the way I want to answer. Okay, I am sorry. Because I love her. She is doing a wonderful job. But the point, international community. My point is that, you know, the needs is in the country. The people of that country know the needs. Somebody else, outsider, could not come and really fulfill that needs. And also somebody else bringing a program and implemented it in Afghanistan, and they are not asking the community which way you want and how do you want. It's not going to work. For example, I have been educated here, right, in this country. I could not take the education part that I got from here, take it to Afghanistan and implement it in Afghanistan. I have to bend it somewhere. I have to change it. I have to create a curriculum that it fits my people. For example, during the Taliban, I was teaching the underground school. There was students from first grade to 8th grade sitting in the same classroom. There's no way that I could take a curriculum of first grade, second grade, and do. I have to create a multi-grade system curriculum that they teach each other. The teacher is directing them, and that was not easy to do it. It takes time, but you have to be able to create an environment that people can be part of it. International community, they come and they really spend a lot of money. First of all, when they come and they see my office and do go to see somebody else's office and see the classroom, it's so different. That the people are not feeling good, you know. They said, see, you have what kind of car you are driving, what kind of office do you have, and what kind of classroom you are providing for me. See, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't fit. You have to bring a balance. Always you have to have a balance. Balancing is not for example, the teacher's salary compared to somebody who is administrator, it's like here into here. So the teachers are not teaching from their heart, really. They are not applying themselves. So you must really look at the community, survey the community, see their need. According to their need, you provide for them. Of course, we need all kinds of export from every other country, because now we don't have anybody. But when they come, they have to train our people. You know what I'm saying? They have to train our people. They cannot just give and for 6 months and leave. First of all, education is not something in 6 months or a year you get complete, you be master in it. You have to train them, you have to teach them, and be patient with them. Patient is another issue that nobody has patience. They want right away to get it and get done with it and go to their home. It doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Karen Nazish. I am a journalist. I'm originally from Pakistan, and I usually cover military aspects of different countries, and I've covered Afghanistan quite a bit. I'm based out of Iraq now. And even though I do cover the military aspect and, you know, the war against terror, one of the things that really I keep coming across is when I think about solutions, I think education is really the core of solving a lot of problems that we are seeing right now with crises around the world. And I think somebody said something about, like, we talked a lot about quality today. I think what I have observed, I think quality is really, it accelerates redevelopment and sustainability. And I think we should, if we focus on quality education, we can sort of sustain education and continue education as well. And another thing that is there also in Afghanistan and a lot in Pakistan, especially after Malala was shot in Pakistan, who was a child activist, also the Nobel laureate last year. I'm sure you all know about Malala. I think what happened is, like, people were spending a lot of money on education, and a lot of grants were given for new NGOs. And there was a lot of money that was going into starting new NGOs for education for girls. But because it was not quality education, it was not sustainable. A lot of them were not able to do that well. There were short-term projects and so on and so forth. And so I think, if you'd like to talk about successful, quality education projects that you know of, any models that you'd like to talk about. That's one. And the second question that I had was, how do you were talking about education and having governments to spend more money on education. Have you negotiated with the Afghan government, for example, or other governments, on how to increase the education budget versus the military budget, for example?
Well, first of all, thank you. Negotiating with the government, that is very different. We work side by side with the government, and we have permission from the government to work because we have to have registration with the government to work with them. And also we help the government people, train their people in English, in computer, in teacher training. So the government of Afghanistan are so poor that they cannot help us. They are in position that they supposed to provide service for the whole country. So we are not going to tell them what to do, but the other international country who give them lots of funding and communicating with them should take them responsible for spending some more money on education, not me as a non-profit organization. I cannot do that. I have a good relationship with the government. Don't take me wrong, please, because again, the government see the quality program that we have, but I am not able to go and tell the government, you come and spend money to the education sector, that they will be better. They see that the educational program in that the country is not good. We have a long way to go. Yes, we have right now many schools that operate by AIL and Center. They are all good, but there are thousands and thousands need to be there, and they are not there. There are many international organizations who come and have a project. They give you $100,000. They want in 6 months you spend it and they go. I don't take that kind of money. I said, hey, I have to have a plan. I have to know what I'm doing. I have to be able to spend this money in a prioritize my money. And then I have to really have a proposal. I can't spend $100,000 in 6 months and give you a report and you go by. Many times I lost big chunk of money from a donor that I did not take it because I could not do that kind of thing. But there are organizations who they can take that money and do it, and that's good for them, but not for me. Yeah. Yes.
First, I want to just thank, my name is Ishan, I'm one of the ALI group. I want to first thank you for perhaps the best speech I heard on courageous leadership. And now my question. Do you have any incentives like midday meals, etc., for the girl children who come to class? Because, taking a parallel from India, the toilets have been discussed. That's the biggest reason why women leave after puberty and leave school. But one of the incentives also for parents to send the girl child is a free midday meal that they get in the class. So at least they say that my girl will be fed at lunchtime and we'll figure out dinner later.
Thank you. It's a very good question, and several times people suggested this to me. But unfortunately, I said no to it because my philosophy is that let's people participate, and they participate to give something to the program instead of me giving to them something. And once you give the food, the children come just for the food. Even they bring their little brother, little sister with them and sit in the classroom, and it makes a really chaotic situation. I saw Swiss school did that, and I just was watching, and I feel even I cry for it because it's several issues. That one is that they don't accomplish educational wise, they don't learn anything. Second, it makes our people to be beggar and just go for that food in the school. And third, they are not applying themselves. For example, right now I have 4 private schools in Afghanistan. In matter of 6 years, these 4 private schools become completely self-sufficient. Why? Because I asked the people to pay a fee. And the people who could not pay, they come and sit side by side with these students who pay a fee, they get a free education. So as a result, it's very successful program, quality education, #1 in Afghanistan. And so I think that especially with the people of Afghanistan, no matter how poor they are, they want their children to learn because they saw what's happening to Afghanistan. They want their children to be ignorant. So they want the children to go to school. So they do try their best to pay something something they will pay. So the children are, if they are hungry, we have a good counselor system that the counselor talk to the children if she or he feel that the kids are hungry or they didn't have enough food. So what they will do, they take them to the, and just very quietly feed them and let them go. That's it. We don't give them to say every day you can come and feed by yourself. Very, very rarely. But also I have a partnership with Abbott Foundation, is the drug company here, and they give me a lot of Ensure. Ensure is something that I just give a bottle to the kids and he drink and he is just alive again. So millions of dollars of Ensure, I took it to Afghanistan and I gave those things to them. Yeah.
You know, Sakena, one of the things I admire as I hear you speak is that not only are you clearly a courageous leader, but you are a person who has taken the time to think through what works, what doesn't, and it is your knowledge grounded in your experience that really develops these very strong views. So this combination of, on the one hand, listening, but on the other hand, not being willing to do everything and knowing what you have to say no, makes you, I think, a very exceptional leader, a good example for all of us. Nina.
Dr. Yacoobi, I was very touched by not only your inspirational story, but your commitment to your country, your selfless commitment. I was also struck by your story that you said you were leading a rather comfortable life here as a student or after you were educated, and then chose to go back, no less, to a refugee camp. In the many countries I've worked in, conflict-affected countries, one of the dilemmas is, as you know well, that many nationals go abroad and get educated, and they don't come back, and for very obvious reasons, the salary disparity, the conditions, etc. And that's a big brain loss. It's in every country I've worked. So my one question is, how important is it that, do you feel, to maybe measures that could be taken by a government or by the international community to provide incentives for that educated nationals to come back to their countries at very critical times where there's institution building and nation building? And then just quickly, secondly, the Sustainable Development Goals, as I mentioned this morning, offer the prospects of equal and inclusive access to tertiary and vocational education. I mean, MDGs focused on primary, now we had discussion of secondary. But in the countries I've worked in, the opportunity for tertiary for women is very slim because often sons get preference for scholarships, et cetera. And I'd like your views on whether, in terms of the scale of the problems you have, whether you think tertiary should be a priority or not, but also on my first issue. Thank you very much for being such an inspiration.
Thank you very much, and I really enjoy your session today. It was wonderful too. First of all, I want to tell you that about what I feel about the people who are abroad. First of all, I'm just going to tell you, and I'm going to go in Arkansas because there is going to be a meeting for the Fulbright students, and I am the speaker. And the first thing I'm going to talk about it, if you are going to be a Fulbright student and you are going to take that money and you are going to take that scholarship, and you are the one who are funded these people, you better make sure these people will go back to Afghanistan, because we really need people who are abroad getting education to come and put their due, give their due to the country, because we really need them. This is one thing. Second thing, for your information, the government send the people in here in this country and give them full scholarship, and they disappear. I set up University of Pacific in my honor. They give a scholarship for 80 students each year. Each student $260,000 award. They can go for a scholarship on my honorary things. So what I said in one condition I accepted. They said what? They said the students, I choose it. I told them that. I will bring the students from Afghanistan, but I have to choose the students. They said, of course, it's for your honor, you do it. So according to that, I put a policy that everyone who is going to be qualified for this scholarship, first they have to pass the 12 test for English. And second, they go for the university. After they finish, they must come to Afghanistan, at least 2 years. They have to work in Afghanistan, and then whatever they do. And I get their house, their property, everything as a contract with me. As a contract with me. As I told you, I am a very strong. I just said, no way. And now is the 40 students are coming at the University Pacific, $260,000 for a scholarship, and 4 of my students are there, and another 4 is coming each year one. And that is the way I do it. But for the government, their students come and they stay here, they don't go, and I hope someday they will change their system. I don't want to talk about what they should do or what not should do, but I'm saying that there are things that could change the system if people want to change the system. And what was your other question? I'm sorry.
Do you think the issue of focusing on opportunities for tertiary
Oh, yes.
secondary is important, or it's more of a luxury when you...
No. I really strongly, as I said before, when I was in the refugee camp, they only wanted a 4th grade. That's all they wanted to do. They didn't want to give a salary for the teacher. They wanted to give books and pen and pencil and had the teacher come and voluntarily teach. The teacher who didn't have money to eat on his tent, they wanted her to come and teach. I said, no, I pay salary. And also I want higher education, secondary and tertiary. Now I am after secondary, tertiary, and also a higher education, because if you really want to build a nation, you can constantly ask the contractor to come and build your country. You have to have your own people to have a skill, to have the knowledge, to have the education to build your country, because nobody else is going to do the things that you want in your home. You do to your home. If you don't do for your own, who is going to do? Don't expect people to come and fix your room. You should fix your room.
You really mean business. You get the Taliban to shave and to take a shower. You take a lien against the assets of the people you send. I better behave sitting next to you. You can push me.
Believe me, I am there. A lot of people watch what they are saying, what they are doing, because really I have a big mouth. I am sorry.
Great. That's wonderful. Go ahead.
I am sorry.
Thank you. I would like to thank you for your big mouth. Your words had a great impact on me, my life, my beliefs. My name is Luciana Febo. I'm from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. I am an ALI fellow. And my question is about the impact of violence in the capacity of learning. I'm from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. And we have lots of things in common on that issue. And I'm talking about urban violence in Rio de Janeiro, in the favelas, in the city of Rio de Janeiro. And I'm talking about extreme violence. Kids who saw their father being murdered in front of them. Or teachers and students had to lay down on the floor in the middle of the afternoon at school period because of shootings. So this kind of events had a great impact on the capacity of learning. And I work for UNICEF in Rio de Janeiro, and we see that this specific group of kids, students, they really have difficulty of learning. And I would like to know from you what works or what does not work. If you have this experience, of course, I think you do. If you could share with us this impact of violence in the capacity of learning.
So before we hear from you, I want to apologize to the rest of you who wanted to ask questions. I'm looking at the time, and we have 5 minutes left. After we hear from Sakena, I'm going to ask my colleagues to make some closing remarks, and then we're going to call it a day. Sakena.
Thank you. First of all, in Afghanistan, you know that Afghanistan have a history of violence. It's not that in Afghanistan there is no violence. There is children beating, wife beating, men beating, they are murdering, they are all kinds of things are there in Afghanistan. What AIL is doing to try to really change this environment, change this mentality, trying to teach them through a workshop. We have a workshop called Violence Against Women, Violence Against Children, Rights of Children. We have all kinds of workshops. In this workshop, we ask people to come, and we don't really ask them. We announce that we have this workshop, and people come. And people come, and we teach them how to not violate, their wife, their brother, their sister that way. That's one thing that we work with them. The other thing that we find out that very helpful, I don't know if you heard me today or not, we do another things that we have a conference. In that conference, we teach our history, our culture, our humanity, our value, and our poetry. These are the things that has been lost completely in Afghanistan. And so what we do, we try to bring this issue into a conference and people discuss and debate about it, and people are learning. So it is working and it's slow. There are men who throw acid to their wives. They cut their wife's nose and ear. That is the kind of violence we have in Afghanistan. So also we have a law clinic. We have a law clinic. We hire 4 women lawyers who defend those kind of violence and try to really protect the women from those kind of issue. So we try our best to really solve this problem, but it is all over Afghanistan. It's like any other country, but it's changed. Today, the people of Afghanistan are changed so much. They are not the same people 20 years ago or 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. People day to day are tremendously, they are changing, and they are become open-minded, and they have vision, and they are getting education, and they are getting awareness, but still they are exist, but it takes time. It takes time.
Rosabeth.
So thank you again. And I'm struck by 2 things, one more personal and one more structural or institutional. First of all, that you have enormous love for your country. And you make it, I'm reminded of the novel The Kite Runner, which does talk about Kabul at a time of very great beauty and of very great literature. And thank you for conveying that too, because your love for your country gives you a passion for this, but also your work in the refugee camp, you were working with your people. And one of my principles about change is that your passion has to match your aspiration, or you can't stick with it. And I'm sure that there were a lot of times when you said to yourself, gee, I could have that cozy life teaching back in the United States. But what keeps you going, it seems, is this incredible love for your community, your people. That's really wonderful. Thank you for the gift of reminding us also of the beauty that has come from your country too. And the second thing, more institutional, is I'm struck by the fact that this program, the whole deep dive, and then this program right now, was supposedly about women and girls education, and you started out there. But in fact, that's just a window into many other issues of a society. And it's a really good window, but it took us into sanitation, it took us into violence, it took us into family structure, it took us into employment opportunities and skills. And that also is very, very powerful, that it's not just about how we get one group to reach parity. They're not going to reach parity if we don't solve all of those other problems.
This is really important. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you
very much. Thank you.
So I guess, thank you so much for your examples, for being very specific and answering people's questions so that they could really hear what it is that you do. And I was thinking about, I mean, clearly as teachers, we think that leadership can be learned. It maybe can't be taught, but it can be learned, right? Hopefully it's an interaction between teaching and learning, but it can be learned, that people aren't necessarily just born leaders. And so I was thinking about, how you do what you do and the skills that it takes, and that's probably what we hope our students will learn and pick up. But the only way to get to the how and so forth is if you have a very centered core. And I think this kind of dovetails with what Rosabeth is saying, that what comes so clearly is that your values and your convictions are so incredibly strong that you are then able to learn, and you're open actually to learning and to listening and to have a hard stance and have opinions, but you do that lovely, as you say, balance between listening and having a firm stance. But you can't really move in that direction I guess, as a leader, as I'm listening to you, unless you've got that. You're very, very clear on what your convictions are. And I guess listening to your stories and what Afghanistan has lost is, I think what you're saying is really some of those core values.
Right.
And you're reminding people through your actions, through these people who you are educating, what those values were. And we appreciate that. We appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
So Sakena, from the Afghan Institute of Learning, AIL, to the Advanced Leadership Initiative, ALI, with love, we love you back. Thank you so much. As I listened to you and to Irina, I kind of wish that Eleanor Roosevelt could have been with us tonight, because I think she would have felt so good about the global movement to empower all people, that she and those who with her drafted that declaration unleashed 7 decades ago. You leave us full of hope. It's unfinished business, but those wheels of progress turn. Slowly sometimes, more fast others, but they do turn indeed. As you leave the place, there is a book outside. You're welcome to pick up a copy for a fee that talks about how it is that schools around the world are indeed empowering young people and what they need to do more of that. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was
Really
wonderful.
appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thank you.
It was wonderful.